welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica and I appreciate you being here. What are we going to do today? We are going to look at some of the Q4 new releases that are coming up that I'm excited for. This is not a comprehensive list of new releases because we would be here for days if I tried to do that. So this is just a list of some of the books that I'm excited for that are scheduled for release in the fourth quarter of this year. Even that's not a comprehensive list because I check like a bunch of different sources for upcoming releases. And even still, I find myself throughout the year being like, oh, I didn't know that book was going to come out as the release date is in like 2 days. So this is just the list as of right now for what I have seen where I'm excited. A couple of these I do already have pre-ordered, so I will try to remember to make note of that as we go through. I'm not going to spend an extensive amount of time on these because we would be here for a couple of hours if I went through a description of every single book in detail. So I'm just going to give something brief for each one, and I will show the cover as well so you can check it out if you're also interested. I do have my computer here, so you might see me looking down from time to time. If you do, that's what I'm doing. After the Forest, this is going to be an adult, kind of a, not even a retelling of a fairy tale, but a continuation of a fairy tale. What happens after the fairy tale ends? This story is going to show what's happened to Hansel and Gretel as they've grown into adults, what their life is like now, and the kind of repercussions that they have from their childhood experience in almost being eaten by a witch. A Haunting on the Hill. This is a retelling of The Haunting of Hill House. They just kind of switched the title around there, but it does have the approval of the estate of Shirley Jackson. I do really like The Haunting of Hill House. I really enjoy the novel. I also really enjoy the series on Netflix. If you haven't checked it out, I really recommend it. For me, it's the perfect kind of horror. It's exactly what I'm looking for in a horror story. I don't often go for retellings like this, but since it does have the authorization, like the stamp of approval from Shirley Jackson's estate, I'll put it on my TBR. The Inheritance of Magic. This should be a contemporary magic story where the world is shockingly controlled by the extremely wealthy, and that includes magic. But our main character, while not involved in this world, discovers that he does have magic powers. So he's going to have to get involved in this super wealthy magic world and possibly use his magical abilities to force change. A Stroke of the Pen, The Lost Stories by Terry Pratchett. Of course, I love Terry Pratchett, the author of the Discworld series, among many other things, so this is one that I have already pre-ordered. Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. Of course, I'm hella excited for this one because Legends and Lattes was one of my favorite books that I've read this year. This is supposed to be kind of a prequel to it, from what I understand. I do already have my pre-order of this. I'm very excited. Christmas and Other Horrors. This is going to be, as it sounds like, a horror story, or rather a collection of them. It's an anthology for winter horror stories. I will absolutely be reading this. Doctor Who, 10 Days of Christmas. This is going to be a collection of Christmas stories featuring the Doctor. I love Doctor Who, and 100% I will read some Doctor Who novelization. Edenville. This should also be a horror story. It's about our main character who ends up moving to a small town, finds out that everyone is participating in some real weird stuff around there, and there's some kind of like mysterious and very dark history going on with the town. I saw this, that the original Godzilla novellas are being published in English. I think this might be for the first time. It's kind of what it sounds like. I'm very excited. I'm trying to branch out more into science fiction, so I will be reading The Epic Origins of Godzilla. Huge, a novel. This is supposed to be a horror story about a group of comedians touring together, and apparently one of them is new to the group and ends up, there's some real sinister stuff going on, and we're unsure if the entire entourage of comedians is going to make it off of this road trip alive. I have no idea if this is going to be funny or not, but I'm here for it. There's going to be a new nonfiction book out about Justinian. He was, of course, an extremely influential ruler in history with the Byzantines, and I love a good nonfiction, so I'm going to check this one out. Can I just say that I love all of the horror that's getting promoted in the fourth quarter of this year? Not shockingly, because it's that time of year, I think, a lot of us want to just hunker down and read scary stories. So this is another one, Let Him In. It sounds like it's going to be a haunted house story, maybe possession, maybe some kind of demonic activity. We'll see, but the cover is pretty creepy. Mrs. Sidhu's Dead End Scone. This is just gonna be a British, like, cozy crime story. I love British mysteries and British crime, and I'm hoping that this one is, like, tongue-in-cheek, just a little bit, like, British humor amusing. Murder at Holly House. This is gonna be what sounds like another cozy British mystery, but, like, Christmas themed. Out There Screaming. This is an anthology of Black horror, and it's edited by Jordan Peele. I really love Jordan Peele as a creator, and he's also very funny as, you know, as an actor as well, but I love his horror. I really trust him when it comes to, like, knowing what good horror is, so I hope this book lives up to that reputation. Savus Corax Deals with the Dead. I'm not entirely sure what this book is about based on the brief synopsis, and I'm not a person who likes spoilers, but I can just say that the tone of the synopsis is enough to make me want to read this. It's apparently about a battlefield salvager who maybe finds some, like, interesting things on battlefields, maybe some useless things, but it's a living. That last part is literally what the synopsis says, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be, I think, my kind of humor. But it sounds like this interesting character's past has come back to haunt him. Scare Waves. This is a middle grade book, but it looked interesting. Like, as I was growing up, I loved, like, Christopher Pike and R.L. Stine and, like, all the scary books like that. So I kind of wanted to see what the new generation of kids are getting to have as far as, like, scary books goes. This one seemed interesting. It sounds like it's gonna be like a supernatural horror about some weird stuff going on in a town that, like, the kids recognize, but of course the adults either, like, don't recognize it or don't believe them, and a lot of wild stuff goes down, and the kids have to, like, try to figure out if they can solve this problem because the adults just can't, like, get it together. Starling House. This is going to be another haunted house story. It sounds like a woman who moves into a home that's known as being the home of an older woman who disappeared many years ago. So she moves in, she's loving this house, she's loving this town, everything's good, till some crazy stuff starts happening. It's supposed to be fantasy and, like, gothic, so not just pure haunting. I always love a good gothic story, and I want to see some gothic and fantasy interwoven. Hoping this one will be another satisfying haunted house story. The Art of Destiny is coming out. Of course, this is the sequel to The Art of Prophecy, which I have, so I will be picking up The Art of Destiny as well. My guess would be that the Broken Binding is probably going to do their own edition of this, so since I got the Broken Binding edition for the first one, if they do their own edition for The Art of Destiny, I'll be grabbing that version as well. The Christmas Guest. This is yet another, like, Christmas time mystery thriller scary story. Takes place at a big old manor, so it feels very, like, I think it's gonna be really atmospheric, which I love. The Curse of Penrith Hall, yet another atmospheric story that takes place at a big old manor. It's gothic, it's historical mystery. I think this is probably gonna be the perfect kind of book to read, like, when it's really cold in the winter. The Darkness Before Them, this is gonna be the start of a new series. It involves, like, an evil immortal king, a supernatural mist known as, let me look, the Veil, that threatens to engulf the land. Main character named Kat, who is a thief and is probably going to have to be responsible for overthrowing this evil ruler. Does this sound like basically a copy of Mistborn? Yes. Am I interested in reading it to see how close we get to Mistborn, or if this description is just not doing it justice? Also, yes. The Dead Take the A Train. This is yet again, I believe, going to be the start of a new series. It's like urban fantasy horror about this magic user who kind of has, like, it sounds like a consulting business or an independent contractor business in New York where she takes different jobs, like taking care of magical problems for people, like demons or curses or things like that. The Djinbot of Shantiport. This one has been on my radar for a while. I thought that the premise sounded fun, and it does sound like more of a lighthearted story. It's described as a mashup between Aladdin and the Murderbot series. The Moon and Serpent Bumper Book of Magic. Try saying that 10 times fast, okay? I have read the synopsis on here probably 5 times. I'm still not entirely sure what kind of book this is going to be. It's going to be fantasy. I don't know if it's going to be a kid's book. I don't know if it's going to be an adult's book. I don't know if it's going to go into the history of different, like, magical myths. I don't know if it's going to be a novel. Look, I don't even care. Look at the cover. Do I judge books by the cover? I absolutely do. They can really make me want to read the book, even if I don't really know what the book is about. This is one of them. I don't really fully understand what this book is going to be, but I'm gonna read it regardless. The Night House. So, yet another horror story. This, I believe, is supposed to be like a haunted phone booth in the woods that this teen has to try to figure out what happened to a kid in their town that disappeared, because it kind of seems like the phone booth is evil and did something to cause this kid's disappearance. The Scarlet Alchemist. So our main character is an alchemist. As the title implies, she lives in an alternate version of the Tang Dynasty in China, and so she dreams of like going to the capital and working for the royal family doing alchemy, but instead she's like stuck in her remote village doing some illegal alchemy stuff to help her family out financially. And somehow she ends up going to the capital to be in a competition with other alchemists to like be an official alchemist, I guess. So kind of like Hunger Games, but with alchemy. Vengeance of the Pirate Queen. This is going to be the third installment in the Daughter of the Pirate King series, and it's going to follow, I believe, a completely different character, but one who works for Alosa, the daughter of the Pirate King. So we'll see this new character as she goes on her own adventure while working for the Daughter of the Pirate King. When Ghosts Call Us Home. This should be yet another haunted house story, I believe. Our main character, when she was a kid, starred in her older sister's horror movie, and it was released. It was like a found footage horror story, had huge success. There's like a cult following of this movie, you know, all the fans trying to pick it apart, and our main character has to figure out what actually happened to her older sister, because the sister has since disappeared. And of course, Brandon Sanderson is the last on this list with Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This is the third installment in his like secret projects that are getting released this year. So this is going to be the wide release for this book. He did already release like the special edition on his website on Dragonsteel. If you're not interested in that special edition and you've just been waiting for the standard edition, well, that is coming out. So the standard edition looks pretty cool. Also, Waterstones has a really cool Waterstones edition of it. It's basically, it looks like the same for the most part, except like the edges are sprayed really cool. I'll put the picture up right here. All of his secret project books I think have looked really beautiful, so I'm excited to see the fourth one too. That should be coming in the next couple of months too. Man, that's all that I got for new releases. It's not like I don't already have enough books to read, but publishers keep putting new stuff out that looks really interesting. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg too, because like I said, throughout the year, even though I check all these sources, like check different publisher websites, I check like Barnes & Noble and Waterstones and Goodreads for various upcoming books that are about to be published, and yet still they are not all encompassing. So I'm sure I will have even more new releases coming up in the next few months where they will surprise me and I'll be like, you know what, I've got to add that to my list too. What did you think? Do you have any of these books on your list? Do they look interesting to you? Are there other books that you're really looking forward to that are coming out before the end of the year? For sure, let me know. As I said, I'm always looking for new books that I can add to my reading list. So that is all that I've got for you today. I always appreciate you stopping by. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. I'll see you next time. Thanks.